Refund from our utility companies. A consumer charity thinks we might have been overcharged. You can almost, people at home going, yes,
Yes.
What have they done? How much do I get back?
Well, possibly you might get a little bit back. This is work that's been done by Citizens Advice, and they've looked at companies that provide energy, water, broadband, mobile phones, and they do think we've been overcharged. So companies are actually allowed to overcharge us because of projections they think they'll need that money for in terms of improvements and infrastructure, for example. But Citizens Advice have said when they've made those projections that they've got their numbers wrong. Here's what they said.
One of the most difficult decisions that regulators have to make is deciding how much to let companies charge for the infrastructure of our essential services, things like building the pipes and the wires that take energy and water into our homes. It's an incredibly difficult job which involves all kinds of projections about how much this will cost companies, how much they might have to pay to borrow money to build this infrastructure. What we think has happened is that they've basically made a series of mistakes when they've made those projections. We looked at how much regulators thought these costs would be against how much they actually have been in reality over the last 15 years, and we think there's a gap of in excess of £24 billion, which in simple terms means that we've all overpaid for our essential services.
There you go. It's a lot of money, isn't it? When you drill down at the figures, look, this is how much we've overpaid, according to Citizens Advice. Energy customers have overpaid by £11 billion. Yep, according to Citizens Advice. And then water customers have overpaid by more than that, by £13 billion. And as we heard there, in total, because phone and broadband customers have overpaid by £100 million. In total, £24 billion.
Well,
in terms of their estimates.
Yeah, the estimates. I'd be interested to see how they got to those estimates. But then this has got to go to the regulator, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And what's the regulator saying about this?
So the regulators are saying they don't necessarily agree. Citizens Advice have added up all the money that was overcharged for improvements, and then they've looked at what's been spent on improvements, and they disagree on what that figure is. So the energy regulator, Ofgem, says it doesn't agree with the excess profits, but says it is learning lessons. And the water regulator, Ofwat, says it welcomes the work that's been done and points out that it's always really tricky setting those price controls, and that water bills have been falling in general.
If I want one of those customers who wants to take issue whether I'm being fairly charged, I might be thinking I'll phone up today and I'll say, have you overcharged? Have you overcharged me? So what does Citizens Advice say about what might happen?
Citizens Advice want these companies to be clearer about how they make these projections and make sure mistakes don't happen. And they also think they need to start looking now about the money that's been overcharged and think about giving it back to consumers. And they have done this before. In 2017, they handed back £300 million to customers. So you might be getting a bit of a rebate.
OK.
Make that call, Charlie.
Maybe I will. Or maybe I will.
Can you imagine being on the end of the phone to Charlie asking about your
I'd rather
utility?
not.
Thank you very much. See you later.